If you're having trouble trying to find your dream job, well, you're not alone. New data is showing a job market which hasn't struggled like this since the pandemic. There were an estimated 227,000 first-time applicants for unemployment insurance made during the week that ended on July 5th. That's at a 7-week low and down 5,000 claims from the prior week. Now, meanwhile, the number of continuing claims rose by 10,000 up to nearly 2 million. That's the highest total since November of 2021. Employers added roughly 147,000 jobs in June, stronger than expected, but almost all of that was in the healthcare industry and also state and local government. Here to explain why this is so rough and maybe offer some ways to help us out here is Professor Thomas Smith from Emory University. Professor Smith, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, I know you heard those figures. I know you know all about it. What does this tell us about our job market right now?
So Atlanta and Georgia, we're experiencing a little bit of some stickiness and tightness in the job market. I know you guys reported that we hit 5 million jobs in Georgia just last week. So there was some really good news with respect to the number of jobs that were out there. But we're definitely seeing some companies slowing down in their hiring. And I think that they're doing this because there's a lot of uncertainty about how new White House policies or White House policies that were rolled out in April might be impacting their profitability.
Are we officially out of the great resignation phase and moving into the harder to get hired type of economy?
Well, it's a great question. So the Great Resignation was coined by another economist, and that sort of took place in 2022, 2023. And I think people were sort of quiet quitting in there as well, like maybe going to work, but not actually officially quitting. Yeah, I think that we've moved past some of those issues. And now we're moving to, let's say, a new part of the economy where firms are hesitant to add to their wages, to their payroll, because they're not sure how new policies are going to roll out, when they're going to roll out, and what the impact of those policies are going to be on them. And so a lot of firms are in the let's wait and see mode.
Yeah, you mentioned the uncertainty of policies. You think tariffs and global uncertainty has a role in this as well?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to say this is just tariffs, but because everybody else is always, tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. But the truth is that, yeah, those are the big policies that are coming out. The tariffs have had this sort of fit and start rollout, and firms don't know what to make of it because they don't know how it's going to impact them yet. So, yeah, this is the big issue. And it's even if a company doesn't think it's going to be directly impacted by tariffs, other companies in their economy, in their supply chain, likely will. And so, these organizations have to realize or have to figure out exactly how do these tariffs figure into their bottom line.
Yeah. Speaking of the organizations, are we doing enough to help people who are stuck in these long-term unemployment stretches?
Well, that's a good question too. So I think that if somebody gets a job, they'll say, "Well, thank you very much for the resources that were available." But for people who are still stuck, probably they're saying, "No, there aren't enough resources for me that are out there." There are community resources, and then there's plenty of job postings. It's whether or not these companies are actually pulling the trigger and hiring individuals. And so, yeah, people always need more resources, but they're hard to come by.
All right, talk to us who are, stuck in this pattern right now of unemployment. What's some of the tips or things we can do to try to get employed or survive during this period?
Yeah, well, I would, go over your CV quite extensively and make sure that you don't have any kind of errors in there. If you have gaps, make sure that you are able to account for those gaps. I mean, of course, having gaps in your CV is much more acceptable since the pandemic, but make sure that you've got reasons if somebody asks you. And then also be really clear about what it is that you want and apply for jobs that make sense. So, if you really don't want to be, a dog groomer or something like this, like don't apply for dog grooming jobs. And this is one of the things that I do hear from companies over and over again is that it's becoming more difficult to sift through resumes because people can at a click of a button like send their resumes all over the place. And so I know HR managers are having a hard time sifting through stuff because they have people who are applying for jobs who are clearly not able to do the jobs they're applying for.
Gotcha. All right, Professor Thomas Smith, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight as well.